Hey there YouTube, I'm Yukitsu, this is the Yukitsu Times, welcome to my channel, welcome to Total War Warhammer. So we're up against Muukip here, who is the tournament organizer, bit of a conflict of interest there, but yeah, we're playing against him in the semi-finals. Whoever beats the other in this round goes into the finals against Captain Beans again. So hopefully I'll get my rematch against him and be able to, play better than I did last time, although last time I did pretty okay. We went 2-2, so it's not like I got completely stomped or anything like that, but anyway, let's go ahead and watch our replay. So I'm playing as the Greenskins over here, and you can see I've got the Orc War Boss, I've got the Night Goblin Shaman, I've got the Goblin Big Boss, 2 Goblins, 4 Orc Biggins, 4 Orc Black Orcs, 2 Goblin Archers, 4 Goblin Wolf Riders. We're up against the Empire here. Empire General, the Amethyst Wizard, the Warrior Priest, we got 2 Spearmen, 4 Swordsmen, 3 Great Swords, 2 Crossbowmen, 2 Empire Knights, and 2 Great Cannons. So we are on Schwarzhaven, which is a very friendly map for people who are going artillery, especially the Empire with the slightly longer range than what the Dwarves have, meaning that we're going to have to watch out for that sort of thing. There's always that sort of possibility of just getting completely demolished by that kind of strategy, but we've set up our Goblin Wolf Riders far off to the flanks here, trying to get them around to the back sides of my opponent. I've got 2 over there, I've got 2 over here. Quite a lot of distance between them and the center line of the Empire here. Our line is just going to move straight ahead towards the opponent. One of the nice things about this matchup here is that I do actually have the edge here. 3 Great Swords is not enough to beat 4 units of Black Orcs, and the Orc Biggins are easily going to be able to smash through Swordsmen. They can even do pretty well against Great Swords. One of the other things about these Orc Biggins is they've actually got a fairly large amount of armor-piercing damage for a non-armor-piercing unit, so they can actually deal quite good damage in this case to the Great Swords if they have to. Now the cannon's firing away, so one of the things to note, my opponent does need to do something to stop me from winning the front-on engagement with the infantry fight, because if I just smash into his units, even though there's an uphill charge here, I will win. So he needs to do something to prevent that, that sort of loss from happening to him. He is summoning up a Feral Manticore, which is a good spell there, Amethyst Wizard. I'm saving my magic up for debuffs and buffs. I've got Sneaky Stabbing and Itchy Nuisance, which I think is a pretty good combination for orcs, especially when you're up against the Empire here who are sitting on this hill like this. We're going to be using Itchy Nuisance on him just before our lines engage so that he doesn't have that charge bonus on these Great Swords, although I only can get 1 of them. I probably could have actually cast on a Swordsman unit and clipped 2 units of Great Swords, but sometimes the area of effect indicator doesn't actually work since I'm not sure how the radiuses are determined. So he decides that he's going to go off with his Empire Knights here, and they're going to try and disrupt my backlines here. They're going to be charging into my Orc Biggins. The reason he's doing this is because he needs to do something to stop my lines from just charging straight into him. Even with the artillery and archer fire, he's not going to beat my line once they get in there, so he needs to do something pretty fast. He's done quite good damage to my Black Orcs in both cases, but here he comes in with a charge with his Orc Imperial Knights there, doing the same thing on this side. Now, I'm charging in with my Orc Big Boss, or Goblin Big Boss, and my Orc War Boss here as assistance. Here we got our Itchy Nuisance here, or Gorkle Fix It actually is what we're doing. Minus 24% speed, minus 18% charge bonus. The reason, of course, that I'm doing this is, if he charged down the hill, then he would have had a ton of extra bonuses. While this is all happening, we've got our Goblin Wolf Riders charging into the backs of his lines here, getting into these great cannons. That'll just stop them from firing, most importantly, but also deal some pretty good damage to them. Swordsman charging into my Black Orcs, but my Black Orcs are going to have an easy time with that. Now, we've mixed in our charge of the Orc Biggins with our Goblin Big Boss, and this makes it so that when he retreats, I can easily catch back up to them, because he is mounted on a spider. And over here, we've got our Orc War Boss, who can also catch up to these guys when they try to retreat. So my opponent's trying to do the cycle charging to a certain degree, and you can see that he's getting out there, but they only get a short distance, and they can't do a proper turnaround and proper charge when they've got a cavalry unit chasing them, and here they count as engaged, so they come back into the fight here. So I actually moved these guys, which is my bad, but I should have kept them on there. Our Orc War Boss, though, can beat this entire unit by himself at this point in time. It's not really a big deal. Goblins have actually won the skirmisher duel. They do win against crossbowmen, even though the crossbowmen have that advantage, but we're still going to help them by just charging in there with those Goblin Wolf Riders, get rid of them that much faster. Now, our front line is doing really well in the center here, even though we've got just 1 unit and a supporting unit of Goblins for some reason. Over here, we're doing quite well as well with the Black Orcs, the Goblins, the Orc Biggins, so on and so forth. It's over here that we're having a hard time. He's using Flock of Doom on my units, but also his General and his Warrior Priest are in this fight here, so my units are doing quite poorly, although we are getting a lot of kills in this Black Orc unit, 47 already. They're going to end up with quite a few more. The Goblin Archers here have an attack order on those archers, and I'm not paying attention to them. But as you can see over here, like our Goblin Big Boss has finally seen off enough of the Knights that he can solo the rest of the unit. He's just mingling in with the lot of them while my Orc Biggins return to the fight, because he's not needed in that cavalry battle anymore. But yeah, now that I can get him back into this fight, it's going to help lock this area down longer so that I can continue to roll him elsewhere on the map here. He's dragging away one of his units of greatswords to try and get into this unit of Black Orcs, because he does know that his general taking beating from Black Orcs and Big Guns, he will actually take a lot of damage and can't afford to. But this does open up this unit of Black Orcs to just continue dealing huge damage uncontested. Over here we cleaned up most of their lines. Over here, my Goblin Wolf Riders do get beaten back by those Empire Knights, but that's fine. They've done their job beautifully at this point in time. These other Goblin Wolf Riders I keep not microing properly, but that's fine. They've done their job already. Feral Manticore taking Shower of Arrows is being focused on by some Black Orcs and some Orc Biggins and my General, so that combination is going to be able to deal some pretty good damage to it, along with that Archer Fire being quite good against it. It's not a heavily armored monster. Over here, though, like these Great Swords are winning a little bit. Like my remaining Black Orc unit here just can't continue this fight here. It's just been too much. It ends up with over 150 kills, which is really, really good. So it's done its job. Like, it can go home and rest if it weren't for the fact they're all dead. But got some Archer Fire coming in here. My archers just plugging away with whatever they can at whatever they can. Just mostly at the General, if I recall correctly, who has, I think, at this point in time used his Potion of Toughness. Maybe not. I think he has, though. But at this point in time, we should probably be getting our Goblin Big Boss back in the fight, but he's way off there. But at this point in time, like even if I start breaking in a few places, and I will, my opponent doesn't have enough left on the map to contest against my remaining higher quality units that are pretty much full strength. Like my General is full strength there. They can't really do anything to him at this point in time. These units returning from the field are probably just a little bit too much for him to handle. The Goblin Big Boss there is going to be hard for him to deal with. Because he doesn't have anything like left on the field other than, say, these spearmen over here. And his General is taking such a battering that he would lose in a duel against my General at this point in time. So we finally lose this unit of Black Orcs. They have 150 kills there. We're still getting some damage off against his swordsmen with our Goblin Archers over here with 64 kills, which is really, really good for that type of unit. This engagement over here, like his General is taking such a bad beating, he's exhausted. We're continuing to batter him down. We're still using Sneaky Stabbing and Gorkle Fix It to get these units dealing as much damage as possible. Over here, units are just sort of smashing into each other. We got some Spearmen charging into these Black Orcs. Bit rudimentary sort of charge there from my Goblin Wolf Riders, but it's going to get them a little bit of a good hit there. In particular, it's a good morale hit, which is important because it breaks those swordsmen. It lets us also break these Spearmen pretty quickly after that. And this means that these Black Orcs actually win that fight, which they probably shouldn't have otherwise. That support unit sort of mentality really working out for me here. General's still getting plugged away at by these archers. The nice thing about this situation is that like his General doesn't have the ability to dual mine if he loses all of his potions and stuff like that, so at that point, you know, he's out of the fight anyway. It doesn't really make a difference. So that battle had been decided quite a while back, but you know, had to grind it out. I had to lose a lot of my units still, but we still had quite a few from some of our units left on the field. Like an Orc Biggin unit was still pretty big there. It went down to the wire though in terms of like all his units didn't rout. They just went straight down to like no population. Very good fight for my Black Orcs here, getting 94 kills, 150 kills. The one fighting his General and the Warrior Priest only got 27. They got wrecked a little bit, but that's what happens when you throw two characters at a unit as tough as Black Orcs. They just won't get that many kills. 78 on the last one, which is not great. He got 101 kills, 98 kills, and 44 on the Greatswords, though. Very, very similar sort of numbers to what I'm getting on my Black Orcs, so that's sort of those elite sword units. They get lots and lots of kills. Very, very expensive for their price, though, so it's debatable as to whether or not that's worth it. The other thing, though, my Orc Biggins, way more kills than his swordsman per unit, so we're seeing that difference in quality there. One of the units only got 25 kills, but I think they were chasing cavalry or something like that. Goblin Big Boss got 14 kills, mostly Empire Knights, whereas the Warrior Priest got 28 kills, mostly killing Black Orcs. That's actually worse than the 14 gills on the Goblin Big Boss, especially because the Warrior Priest costs so much more, although he did have a lot of really good supporting abilities, keeping that line in place a lot longer. That's the reason why the Empire units didn't break so quickly. 56 kills on one Empire Knight, 17 on the other. Not that great for the investment. We're seeing actually similar numbers of kills on these Goblin Wolf Rider units, some of which got far, far less, but some of them which got pretty good numbers of kills there. Not too many kills on the cannons, they were shut down pretty early, and we're seeing really good kills on these Goblin Archers who were able to fire a lot longer than the Crossbowmen before the cavalry hit the Crossbowmen. So, yeah, this one came down to the fact that my opponent just couldn't defend all the places that he needed to defend against the stuff that I had taken. So, let's go ahead and check out our second match here. There we go. Alright, so we're playing as the Beastmen in this case. We've got our Malagar the Dark Omen, 2 Gorebulls, 3 Ungor Spearmen, 6 units of Gores with shields, 2 units of Bestigors, which is a little bit peculiar for me, and 2 Ungor Raiders, and 2 Poisonous Chaos Warhounds. He's got the Archlector, the Amethyst Wizard, he's got 6 units of Swordsmen, 3 units of Greatswords, 2 units of Empire Knights, a Demigryph Knight, and 2 cannons. So he's again going for that large number of swordsmen, backed by a few elite swordsmen. Now his elite swordsmen, his great swords, will crush my 2 units of Bestigors. Bestigors are actually really bad, I find. Like, this is why I don't normally take them that often, and this is one of those matches where I really regret not taking my more standard composition, because the Minotaurs actually do okay against this sort of composition, whereas the Bestigors don't really. Like, the Minotaurs could charge straight into those greatswords and, like, beat them by themselves really, really easily, although they'd be getting shot at by the cannons, I suppose, but they don't have crossbows, which is how you would usually want to deal with that kind of thing. He's firing the shots against the Bestigors, which is a smart target. Now, despite the fact that I will be outclassed in terms of armor-piercing units, I still have an advantage in the overall melee infantry fight, so if I just charge forward, I will have a bit of an advantage there. Especially along the flanks. The problem is that he's got all this cavalry that I don't really have an easy counter for. You can see I'm moving these Chaos Warhounds with poison. This time he's moving his cavalry to sort of mask it and to sort of interfere with any sort of backline charges into his cannons, because he knows that's what I'm looking for with these Chaos Warhounds. This time, however, he doesn't have any archers, so I don't have to worry about that as much. And what we're going to do is just run up with the Ungor Raiders and have them fire straight at the Great Cannons, and they're going to be able to shred down the crew of that pretty quickly. Now, to deal with the fact that he theoretically has a really big advantage in terms of dealing damage with his heavy infantry, I've got the Gorebulls basically set in to start attacking his units of greatswords specifically. I want to make sure that they're attacking greatswords. Now, a Gorebull can actually solo a unit of greatswords, which they should, because they cost 1,400, whereas the greatsword unit costs like 950. So you would expect them to be able to win that particular fight. The one problem that I'm going to run into is that I don't necessarily have a lot of those Gorebulls. I've only got 2, whereas he's got 3 of those units, and Bestigors, again, do lose in the fight versus Bestigors versus Greatswords. So I also leave a gap here by accident, and my Ungor Raiders are going to get charged because of this, but it gives my Bestigor herd a chance to get into a unit of swordsmen. General Archlector and his units are charging into these Gore herds with shields. This unit of Bestigors are charging into the fight as well, but they're quite weakened. We get a nice hit into those greatswords there with the Cygor, which is really nice. We charge in a bunch of units, and I try to retreat with my Ungor Raiders here. Malagor's in the fight, unfortunately, a little bit too close. But in any event, though, you can see a lot of hits from our Minotaur, our Gorebull, rather, hitting a lot of these greatswords, getting 19 kills already. We've got some units just absorbing shots from these Empire Knights, dealing damage to them, so on and so forth. But it's going to be a lot dicier on this flank over here, where my unit is fighting a Demigryph Knight with Halberd unit. We're charging in with some of these Chaos Warhound units. We did manage to chew through that Swordsman unit with our Gore Herds, though, before we broke here. And now we're just charging in the rear with those Poisonous Warhounds, which is going to deal some pretty good damage to those Demigryph Knights and to these Chaos Knights. So I got a clean charge and they didn't get a charge against me. And these Gore Herds with shields are then going to pile into the fight. And they can't cleanly disengage from this fight again. It's another one of those cases. Now, his artillery is pretty battered. He's lost one of them already. The other Great Cannon, I believe we're going to be going into pretty soon. I'm just throwing Vile Tides into the fight as well, just because I want to disrupt his formation, stop him from fighting, and give me a little bit of time so that I can clean up certain areas of the fights. Like, we're going to win this fight over here against the Swordsman and against that Amber Wizard. That Amber Wizard shouldn't be in here either, just like Malagor shouldn't have been in melee either, but, you know, it happens. Gorebul over here is just chewing his way through a lot of different things. 45 kills. He's pretty crucial to the way I'm playing this time. The Archlector is fighting away against a unit of Bestigors. He will beat the Bestigors over time there. He's not the highest DPS, but he's still a pretty decent general, so he'll be able to do it. We got a couple of Gorebulls charging straight into these cannons. We're finally going to get rid of them. Although that was the dumbest charge I've ever seen from one of these guys. Oh yeah, I know I redirected in this unit of greatswords with one of them, because you don't need 2 Gorebulls to take out a cannon. Like, that's just not really something that you need to be doing. Still getting shots off from our Cygor over here. Malagor's getting charged by the Feral. Manticore getting a support unit of Ungor Spearmen into the fight there to try and help out, and they're going to be pretty good for dissuading that fight. We've done a ton of damage to these Empire Knights, considering all we've been using is Chaos Warhounds with poison, really. But we've still lost this flank over here, pretty much. Other units of Warhounds with poison in this fight, though, with greatswords and the Gorebull, and this makes it so that this unit is really ineffective at dealing damage because of that poison. Dealing enough damage against them as well that their leadership is going down pretty quickly, and they're going to be out of the fight pretty soon. Bestigor herd running just out to get at these swordsmen. Swordsmen don't have an ability to fight back against that. And at this point in time, like, my opponent doesn't have anything left on the field that can really easily deal with the Gorebulls, except for the Demigryph Knights with halberds, so that's a little bit problematic. Seeing the flock of crows coming down, and it's causing quite a lot of damage actually to this Bestigor herd. We get a good charge off though against these great swords, and we're going to be able to deal some pretty good damage to the rear charge from the Ungors, but it's just too much stuff, and it does take out that Bestigor herd pretty badly. Gorebull over here starts smashing his way through this greatsword unit, which is lovely. This one back here doing its job, doing whatever. We're just using Poisonous Warhounds to clear off some of these units that might rally. In particular, I want to make sure that the greatswords can't rally because they're a much more threatening unit than his other generic swordsman units, so that's kind of what they're up to. Then they run over and try and take out the great cannon crew, if I recall. I think they break before they can do it, though. Gorebull still just trying to stop his units from coming back together there, mashing into this unit of swordsmen. Dealing pretty good damage there. We're getting a Vile Tide down just to disrupt these units that are trying to sack into my Gorebull. At this point in time, like, we've got, what, 78 kills on the Cygor? I think he ends up with 108 or something like that. So he's just continuing along, throwing stuff into the fights here. Now, the Demigryph Knights with halberds are extremely dangerous to my Gorebull, and this is where I could potentially lose everything if these Gorebulls go down. So I'm 2v1ing these Demigryph Knights with these Gorebulls, and they're actually going to be able to take apart Demigryph Knights with halberds if I can get 2 of them in there. The problem is that he's got some additional stuff coming in to assist. I do believe I pop potions of toughness though on my Gorebulls, which is going to keep me in this fight a little bit. We're chucking in rocks, but unfortunately I hit my own guy. Fortunately, this scatter also hits some of the Demigryph Knights with halberds and stuff like that, but still, yeah, it's looking rough for my units here in this fight here. I think one of my Gorebulls actually routes here. I think he's already actually used his potion of toughness, so I don't think he gets another one there. Miss there. I think, no, that was a complete miss. We do still have one Gorebull in this fight, though. We're able to sort of cover his retreat a little bit with Vile Tide. These Demigryph Knights are trying to pull away from combat, but can't because there's still a Gorebull in the fight. But like I said, he just didn't have anything left in the army that could deal with this, other than the Demigryph Knights with halberds. And unfortunately for him, like, one unit of Demigryph Knights with halberds can't take out 2 Gorebulls. So this is one of those rare times where support units win the fight, because both of us have basically no army left. Like, I'm running in with quite a few units that are left in the fight, but he had thrown everything in against these Gorebulls. Most of them were ineffective against them. Like, these Empire Knights, really useless against these Gorebulls, although they're going to be able to take out this one if I recall correctly. I don't really remember for sure. Flock of Doom coming down on my remaining units. The Gorebull doesn't really care about this, he's too tough, but the Ungor Raiders and the remaining Gore Herd here really do care about that. Still seeing rocks coming in, but the Gorebull, their routes, so pretty bad. The General here, the Archlector, is on, I believe, foot, so he can't even get away from this fight. The Gorebull is faster than him, so he's just going to get mashed into the ground there. He doesn't even have armor piercing, so as a trait, so he is getting hammered pretty badly. Archers start firing away at these Empire Knights here, but it doesn't really matter. At this point in time, my opponent's army is in complete retreat there. So very, very close match. It's one of the very, very few times where it mattered, the fact that my support units lived, and that my support units were like the cheesy, broken ones, I guess you could say, because they are really, really strong. Because neither of us really had any armies left. It came down to, you know, who had the ability to win with those high-cost, high-value units, his general versus my Gorebulls. and it's the gorebulls that win that fight. So he needed to more decisively beat my army. Now, the fair thing about this is that I paid a lot more to get those characters than he did. His character roster cost him like I think about 3,000 points probably, whereas mine cost me about 5,000 points. So my support units definitely should be able to beat his, but he had another 2,000 points to play with to build his army. So he didn't necessarily win the fights that he needed to in the places that he needed to, and that's sort of what you ended up seeing there. Now, we got 92 kills and 86 kills on the gorebulls, which is the most I've ever actually had on them. Usually you can ignore them pretty safely, but my micro with them in this game was actually pretty good, and I got them into the targets that I wanted to. Malagor got 10 kills with Vile Tides, but mostly I just needed him to summon up the Cygor. The Cygor got 104 kills or something like that by the end of that, so you can say that he got like 115 kills just by himself. That's a really, really impressive number. Bestigors did really trash. Like, these guys I don't normally take, and I probably shouldn't have taken them here, but I guess if I took the Minotaurs and they got sacked by the cannons, that would have been a really, really bad thing for me. Gores with shields, they did pretty well. They usually do quite a bit better than swordsmen, and on average, I would say that they definitely did here. The great swords, though, they did pretty poorly, honestly, for what you would expect out of them. Still better than my Bestigors. Ungor Raiders got very few kills, unfortunately, which they were firing mostly at artillery, but they did an okay job of clearing them out. From my opponent, like his Demigryph Knights with halberds, as you would expect, got a lot of kills, but his Empire Knights there got a ton of kills, like a really, really good number of them. A lot of my units have difficulty dealing with those heavy mounted units, and I didn't have the ability to do the same trick to prevent cycle charging like I did last time. The gorebulls can to a certain degree because they're actually quite fast, and he did kill like all of my Chaos Warhounds with poison that had no real targets in this fight anyway. They were just mostly in there to support with their poison when they were fighting other units. So yeah, good game to my opponent. That one came down quite close. This one was simply a case of like, our armies were fairly evenly matched, so it came down to whether my gorebulls and Malagor and his Cygor were more powerful than the Archlector and the Amber Wizard and the Demigryph Knight unit. So the answer is that my 3 characters will beat his 2 characters plus the Demigryph Knight. That's just the way it is. So yeah, I mean, if it was more decisive, then I probably would have morale broken really, really quickly with the gorebulls, and this is how I usually beat beastmen. But it's hard to do sometimes, and that's what ended up happening. So anyway, I hope you found this video enjoyable, and of course, as always, I hope to see you all next time.